up, right? But it's all like, beautiful. It's presents and Santa, bear Santa, apparently, right? And all these wonderful things, right?
All right, and you are locked into another episode of the Emily podcast. My name is Josh, and we are so happy that you have welcomed us once again into your listening ears. Yeah, I think that's always so weird when I say that. Your listening ears. Well, your ears aren't listening. I guess they'll be plugged in or something. But I have my lovely wife, Rebecca, with me once again.
Hello!
And if you haven't noticed, we are starting our Christmas series.
Mm-hmm. We even dressed up all festive.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever dressed up like festive for it.
You know, I don't think we have either.
No, it's just, we've always just worn regular attire. I mean, we've done Christmas-themed episodes, of course, for the month of December, but...
Well, I don't think last year we were doing all of our podcasts as video.
Oh, right.
So I guess this would be the first year.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we weren't. We were only doing it when we had a guest, and then made the decision earlier this year to do the that everything that was audio had a video component.
Yep, exactly.
And Rebecca, with it being December and everything and Hallmark, and we're enjoying those new movies, what is one thing that you're looking forward to this year for Christmas?
Ooh, like a thing to do, or
or just tradition in general?
Well, I am looking forward to watching all of the Hallmark Christmas movies, the new ones. Anyway, we started in October, like October 20th, and we started recording all of the new Hallmark movies that were coming out, and so we are watching through those this December. It's going to be a lot, so I'm excited. I don't know. It's probably going to have to be like one a night. But I mean, they're not super long, and they're very lighthearted, which is nice.
And they're always predictable, A, B, and C.
That's what's great. I like that. Honestly, I think around the holidays, everybody needs a little bit of predictability because it can get crazy.
It can be, yeah.
I think that's why people like the Hallmark movies so much. I know I do. That's why rom-coms are so great, because you know what's going to happen. There's a formula, but it's how do they get there?
Yeah, in addition to the Hallmark movies, I'm just going to be enjoying like time with family, again, time off work, and just creating new memories. I feel we that's always constant is the new holiday memories that come year after year. So I always enjoy that.
Yeah, I think we should start. We've been talking about this for a while, but I think we should start a new tradition, kind of like the Japanese do, if anime can be believed anyway, that they have Christmas cakes. And I think we should do that. We should do that this year. We should have a Christmas cake, like a birthday cake.
Yeah, we were going to do it. Weren't we going to do that like last year?
We were, but we went out of town.
Happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there aren't any cultural differences that we'll probably talk about a little bit later in the episode between American Christmas and how it's celebrated in Japan. And we are so excited this week because we've had a couple of people from Beneath the Tangles. We've had Laura A. Grace when she was just getting started with Beneath the Tangles. And we also had Claire, who is a writer for Beneath the Tangles. But this week we have Mr. Beneath the Tangles himself, Charles, also known as TWWK. Please welcome Charles to the podcast.
Hello. Hey, guys.
Hey, Charles, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Oh, no, I'm super excited to be able to finally join you guys and to talk about my favorite season and some of my favorite anime episodes. So I'm really pleased to be here with y'all.
All right. Awesome. Great. Charles, before we get things kicked off with the interview portion where our audience will get to know a little bit more about Beneath the Tangles, what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Oh, that's a good question. So I love decorating the Christmas tree. We speaking of Hallmark, we go to the store, and our family picks out. I have two kids, and they each pick out one of their special ornaments every year, and so we've had those from the time they were babies, and we were picking them out for them. So there's one for each year. So it's exciting to pick out the new ornament, put the ornaments on the tree, decorate it, get really in the Christmas spirit. And this year, I'm really trying to wait until after Thanksgiving to decorate the house because I feel like it's creeping earlier and earlier. And I'm like getting, by the time Christmas comes around, I'm kind of through with it already. And I don't want to feel that, so.
Right. Rebecca felt that way a couple of years ago because we just started it so
It was
early.
like November 1
Yeah.
that we like decorated and we did everything. And by the time, like you said, by the time Christmas comes around, you're like, I'm kind of done with this. Let's move on. Cram it all into December and maybe it'll be better.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Charles, for our audience to get to know you and a little bit more about Beneath the Tangles, the story behind it, your mission, we just have a few interview questions for you. So, Rebecca, if you'll go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, we usually start off by asking about just like, what's your background? It's a really big question, but, maybe start off with Beneath the Tangles. Like, how did that get started? And whatever else you want to throw in there.
Yeah, so Beneath the Tangles, we started in 2010. And I like to tell people that kind of all these things kind of came together. Like I was a big fan of anime in college, and then I kind of drifted away from it. And then when we had children, I started watching it again because I was kind of up in the middle of the night and I needed something to keep myself entertained. So started watching anime, and then maybe a year or two later, when I've been watching it consistently for a while, I wondered, was there a way to glorify God through this? And I kind of looked at the landscape, searched the internet, saw if anyone was really analyzing anime from a Christian perspective, which I didn't really know what that meant yet, but I just kind of had that idea in my head. And there really wasn't. There was a Christian Anime Alliance, which was this wonderful group of Christians that was basically on a forum, and they were also doing reviews of anime. And then there were some people out there that had written some pieces, but no one that was blogging consistently about it. And it was still the kind of the age of the blog at that time. So I prayed about it. I started preparing, and I jumped right in. I wasn't really sure what it was going to be, and it really changed over the years. And as you mentioned, we added all these volunteers, including Laura and Claire, over the last few years here. But we've had, over the years, dozens of people volunteer for us and really kind of shared their heart for God through serving with us. And it's really helped keep this ministry going, because there have been times where I've been burned out, as happens in ministry, or where I'm not as interested in anime, right? What do you do then if that's like your topic, or I felt I wasn't growing as a writer, and what am I going to do at this point? And it's really been both the people serving and then the community that we serve that have really, I think, helped kind of motivate us. And of course, seeing God really work through what was a really weird idea at first. I got lots of questions like, what? What are you guys doing? What is this? And some people are like, keep it out, keep the Christianity out of anime. Right. And I totally got that, but I feel like we're really at a good point now, because we've been around so long and developed what I think is really good content for a long time. And so when people come to us now, I think they understand that we're part of that community, right? We're bought in, we're part of the anime community, and we might be a little weird, but it's not weird that we like anime, and we're not trying to do a bait and switch on people. And we're here to stay, and they're largely open to what we're saying. So it's been a wonderful ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you mentioned that people are so open, because I've found that too within the anime community, and other communities that like, kind of like that, like the furry community and the, kind of offshoots of those types of people. They're all very open and very loving of everyone. So yeah, that's so nice that there's been space created for people who make content like Beneath the Tangles.
For sure.
And you may have gone into it a little bit. Like, can you explain to me, to us and our audience, more about like the mission and the goal or goals behind Beneath the Tangles?
Yeah. You think I'd have this memorized because we have a mission statement and we have
Right.
a vision. But I've got my web page up now, so I can kind of more or less kind of paraphrase what those
Gotcha.
are, because it's we try to encompass a lot of things. So we see Beneath the Tangles as the bridge between anime fans and the Christian church, and we serve as that bridge by developing anime related content. So that can be visual content, it could be podcasts like you all are doing, it could be writing. As we discuss anime, as we discuss Christianity, is expressed through anime, manga, light novels, all these different media. And also, we serve as that bridge as we minister to anime fans in a variety of ways. Trying to develop relationships, be there for them, talk to them, be a constant sometimes in people's lives. And then as we model Christ by developing our art and by how we interact with them. So we want to basically show anime fans that maybe there's a different type of Christianity that they may see, kind of like in social media or in the news, or that they've experienced in person. Because I think a lot of us, even in Beneath the Tangles, have had negative experiences in the church or growing up or fit in faith, or we see people as Christians who don't kind of act the way that we feel is Christ-like, so we've been there too, and we've seen that, and we want to be different. So we do that, and we're really focused on building community, and that was kind of this key aspect that really took a long time to figure out, because when we had the blog, I did have community because back then a lot of people were blogging and we were all commenting on each other's stuff, right? And then as blogging went away, I was like, we're writing stuff and there wasn't this back and forth. So I was wondering, how do I get there? And with social media, we've been able to have a little bit more interactions. We've been able to have messages go back and forth a lot. And then through Discord was huge for us, when we were able to really build out that community and really serve people on a more consistent basis, have small groups, have rooms where people could talk freely about faith, even if they weren't Christian, or if they were. And so that's really been really key for us, as we've been able to figure out a way to develop that community we really wanted so bad.
That's fantastic. I mean, to take that idea and to have these mission statements and these goals, I mean, and just the outreach that you guys have done throughout the years. The ministry has been in effect for 8 years, I believe.
It's,
5, 8
it's
years.
Gosh, it's been longer than that. So
Oh,
we started in 2010. It's been
oh,
13 years.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a long time.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's been a long time, but it feels like just the last few years feel like they've flown by, because it's just been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome when you can find something that's like that. The time flies because you really enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, and with like ministry, I'm a huge believer in. I mean, sometimes you have to serve in whatever capacity is available, right? Like,
Right.
if you're at a small church, you may have to do these variety of things that don't necessarily work with your skills or your gifts, and that's absolutely serving, and it can be hard, but it can also be very valuable. But I feel like they're increasingly, especially in the digital sphere and in lots of churches, there's a place where you can serve and use your skills, your talents, your interests, the audience that you feel you most relate to, and where all these things can come together. Sometimes it just takes flexing a little bit of creative muscle, and that I didn't really realize that 13 years ago, right? But that's what I was doing. I was trying to bring all these things together, and it really worked out. And I was like, wow, okay, that's exactly how I want to be serving. It's been very nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and so obviously spirituality is rooted so deeply in Beneath the Tangles. Um, so why do you think that it resonates with so many viewers of people who read your blog and specifically that connection between spirituality and anime?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you hit on a little bit of it. The idea that the community is pretty open, right? They're willing to discuss, and maybe this kind of generation that's coming up too is um, maybe not so aggressively skeptical. Like they're they won't necessarily believe that Christianity is the way, but they're willing to listen and see what you have to say, right? So I think our audience is really terrific right now for the listening, but anime too, right? Anime delves into spirituality a lot. Um, Japan is kind of a interesting culture in that the people there are both often atheists and very religious, right? You could all at once be Buddhist, Shinto, and an atheist, right? And of course it permeates anime, right? It permeates manga. So like those values that maybe an older Christian generation would call very mystical and like like we need to stay away from it, is maybe preparing some of the hearts of anime fans to be willing to receive the church on a different level than what they've encountered in the past or what they see in it. So and it's a very entertaining kind of medium, right? So it's already engaging us, right? Engaging our hearts, engaging our minds. So there's a lot going for it that really make this ministry make a lot more sense after we've done it for all these years. And like, oh yeah, that really does work than it did in my mind at first. Like, how is this going to work? Well, it actually is a nice kind of crossover between what we're trying to do and what the medium makes available to us.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Just like we do each week on our podcast, where we're taking these different animation titles from movies and TV shows, and many people don't think it's like, well, how does Aladdin exemplify, self worth, and how does these other characters and these other mediums, how can you possibly link spirituality, nonetheless, biblical principles to this movie? And throughout the couple of years we've been doing this, we've been pretty surprised ourselves with what we've been able to pull out from what we've done so far. So totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, I think as you develop your faith too, when you're seeing these things, it just kind of speaks to you,
Right.
right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
the way that Jasmine acts in Aladdin, how there's something appealing in her personality there. Why is that? Like, oh, is that like something that I wish I had because that I see that character in Christ, or God has imbued that in us, or or why does Jafar act that way, and what does that tell us about the nature of sin and the nature of power and corruption, right? It just, as we grow in our faith, I think it's just natural that like, oh, the things that are being created by humans, right, who are, that God's created, is naturally going to speak of God.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think of the verse that says, I think it's in Romans, that like all the earth will cry out, the rocks and the trees and everything is groaning for us to know who we are in Christ and all of that. Yeah.
And while we're on the subject of different different facets and different elements of the human condition, empathy and emotion, what do you think anime can teach us about such like as ethics, empathy, and personal growth?
Well, I think there's plenty. Even like if you're watching not from a Christian perspective, you're just the kind of the typical consumer of it, whether you're Christian or not. We do see these things, right? We see the sacrifice, the, like you mentioned, empathy, personal growth. I think that's a huge part of the appeal, right, of anime. I don't know. I feel like there's a direct connection to a lot of the TV shows I saw growing up in the 80s, a lot of the cartoons and that kind of heroism that we see and friendship and all that, and I'm sure it's just continued over that in the course of animation, but there's something special about anime where we see that. And I think what's really great when like your podcast takes an even deeper dive, or when we're writing about, we take an even deeper dive, we can say, hey, that stuff's really awesome and really good. But there is something deeper. That's actually a little superficial. We can even go further than that and look at, ask questions like, I have this example that's coming to mind. Okay. So I was working on an article, and we were comparing, or I was comparing in the article, Naruto, who develops friends from his enemies, right? I mean, there's right there, right? We talk about, the way we treat our enemies. But there's also the idea, like, I went a step further, because he wasn't the main point of the article. It was just an example I brought up. Like, he beats up the enemy first, right? And then he makes friends, right? There's still a lot to like there. There's a lot of great, incredible lessons you can learn from Naruto. But the comparison I was making was to Trigun with Vash, who doesn't beat up his enemies, who believes in nonviolence, who avoids hurting them. And then there's a scene in Trigun where you see Vash disrobe, and he's full of scars all over his body. And I thought that was just really this incredible vision of Christ there, right? Who let his enemies, beat and destroy his body, right? For the sake of them. And so you can just keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and you find even more about personal growth, more about empathy, more about ethics in what God is showing us. But even if you don't go that deep, even if you just stick at a surface level, there's still so much to learn and to take away from so many anime series.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever watched any other medium that just goes that teaches us so much in so little time. In 22 minutes,
Yeah,
you have so much convey. It conveys so much about really, like, just the human experience. Heartbreak, abandonment issues, just all these different things that are encompassed in the anime scope.
Anime is willing to go in so many different directions that Western anime is kind of just starting to break into, right? Like over the past, over the past 20 years, but it's still growing, right? But the anime has been there and sitting in there for so long, and you have so many series coming out. So there's so many wonderful things, and it's I still enjoy live action stuff. I love some of the stuff I watch on Netflix and so forth. But man, I mean, I'm primarily watching anime, not just for the website, but it's just part of my life. I just love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty much what we do now. We pretty much exclusively watch anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is some other stuff.
Well, I mean, that's why I started the podcast, is like we mainly watch animation. Mm-hmm. And so we have stuff to say about it. So why not, put to good use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about Beneath the Tangles, but I'd love to hear, are there any like upcoming projects or events or new content that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited about seeing kind of our more media-centered content grow. We've had a podcast, like you all, several times in the past, and then we relaunched our Tangle Cast about a little more than a year ago, and it's been going really well. I'm real excited about how that continues to grow, and so so that's been great. We have a TikTok account that's a lot of fun. We just do shorts on it, just silly shorts, and I'm just amazed about how many people like these shorts, right? So, and then I'm exploring how we can get into other types of content in YouTube and more video spaces, Twitch and things like that. So a lot of things on the horizon. I went to back in November. I went to a conference here in Texas that gathered. What was it? It was called the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. And it was all these people doing the stuff we're doing here. It's this type of ministry. They were mostly gamers, right? Because the gaming industry, of course, is so huge, and they've got a bit of a head start on anime ministry. In that there's churches out there, like full churches with staffs that are digital, right? And that are reaching out to gamers. And so I made some connections there, found all sorts of things I learned all sorts of things about how we might spread in our sphere, and kind of answer some of the questions. So I'm looking forward to see how our media develops. And then right now we're just like you all. We're celebrating a Christmas season. Every year we do the 12 days of Christmas anime, where we do dives into episodes of Christmas anime, like we're doing here, and do like Christmas fan art, and and talk about Christmas manga, which there are lots of chapters of Christmas manga too. So it's a great time of year for us. It's an exciting time because a lot of people come to us and looking for Christmas episodes, and so it's really good opportunity for us to do outreach, and it's just a lot of fun also.
That's awesome. That does sound really exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys were on TikTok. I'll have to look you up.
Yeah, we're pretty much everywhere. So if there's a platform out there, we either have a placeholder or we're active in it.
Yeah, we just started recently doing YouTube Shorts, so just little segments of our podcast. We do have a TikTok account.
Haven't done anything yet.
Nothing on it yet, but
maybe that'll be New Year's goals.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're just repurposing stuff. So yeah, the TikTok is exactly the same thing we put on the YouTube Shorts. Is exactly the same thing we put on Instagram Reels, and they're all drawing pretty good. For what I think is a pretty good audience for us. Yeah. So I'm like, wow, okay, that was pretty easy to do. So yeah, it's fun.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And Charles, you were talking about earlier with experiences in the church. Some people have had good experiences, some people have had negative experiences. Where I grew up in the Pentecostal church, there was certain media that was quote unquote demonized. Mm-hmm. And my pastor unfortunately hit on anime pretty hard.
Yeah.
And because he painted it with a broad brush, not knowing what all is out there. Yes, there's ecchi anime. Yes, there's hentai. Yes, there is all this other stuff out there. But if you paint it all with a broad brush, you're not really giving that medium a chance, because there is a lot of good stuff that doesn't entail that content. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, in your opinion, what are some common misconceptions about the intersection of anime and faith?
So that's interesting. Because I was thinking about that a while back, just a few weeks ago. I posted on my personal Tumblr. Now that you can do polls on Tumblr, I asked this poll asking basically, I was asking Gen Z specifically, what do your parents think about anime? Is it like you said about like the pastors in the 90s and the early 2000s, and Pokemon is evil, anime is evil, right? Or is it like we don't really know, or we're accepting of it? And I don't remember the results, but the question just came to mind because I was thinking, I was talking to someone else who said that people in this person's congregation at church still had this mentality about anime, that it was with that broad stroke, that it was evil, and I feel like that kind of got passed down to some people. But if you've experienced anime, which increasingly now people have experienced it, right? You get to realize, yes, it's weird, but that's the appeal, right? Right. Marvel is weird too, right? If you think about it. Yeah. And a lot of the things that we like best are weird. So once people experience it, they understand, it's not all hentai. It's not all like, super violent stuff. But there's some of that too, and some of that because it's just a medium, right? Right. And so I think it's the same thing with Christians. Once they experience something, you get a better understanding of it. And that's so important for Christians, whether it's anime or just getting to know people, right? Like, you may have certain views about the LGBTQ community. Once someone in your family comes out, or you have a really close friend that comes out, and you're able to experience life with them, then you suddenly get a better understanding, right?
Yeah.
And not to equate anime with something more along the lines that's more serious like that, but it is sort of similar. It's just we get this tunnel vision. The church is great at tunnel vision, and we our tunnel vision sometimes is a church culture tunnel vision, and which is not necessarily scriptural, you know, and it definitely doesn't love the culture, which is okay, but it's hard to love the people if you don't understand the culture, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got to do a better job as Christians in general of understanding anime and anime fans, and nerds in general. That's just a huge group of people that is really unreached right now, and we're if, I think we've been too okay with that, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I love everything that you were just talking about. It reminds me of, so I'm going to school for to be a counselor, and I just finished up a class on multicultural counseling, and it teaches just what you were saying. You know, you have all of these biases and things that everyone has them about different things. Could be about anime, could be about the LGBTQ plus community, could be whatever it is. But once you actually like talk to someone that is a part of whatever community it is, and you have open conversation, that's when healing can start to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you can show empathy. And there's an excellent book that we read for class that's called Gracism
Oh,
by Anderson, I think was his last, David Anderson. Yeah, and it plays on, so the idea of gracism is that it takes it's like God's like putting grace on everything.
mm-hmm.
And like how do you view the lens from that? The author goes into way better detail of
Mm-hmm.
describing why that word.
I
But
love
it's
that
all about
title.
God's grace. Yeah, it's very captivating, isn't it?
Yeah,
But yeah, it's really good. So you might be interested in checking it
yeah.
out, but it impacted me a lot. And yeah, there's so many different ministry opportunities out there, and particularly like the nerds. Like, I love that you mentioned that specifically because, yeah, I think because a lot of times, I mean, everyone feels overlooked at some point in their life, right? And I think nerds feel it. I don't know, not that it's like more, but just I understand it, I guess, because I am one,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's debilitating, and someone needs to say, "No, I see you,
Mm-hmm.
I hear you," and it's just very impactful.
Yeah, and think of what you were saying with, being a nerd and being into nerd culture, and then growing up. At least for me, it's a very like small group. There was that table in the cafeteria that was like 5 people, and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, that they talk about anime and Gundam Lane and all that stuff.
They play
Um,
D&D over
yeah.
lunch.
But now, since this stuff is a lot more mainstream, I believe is
Yeah,
more welcomed, which is
yeah,
great.
Yeah, that is helpful. And you know, the more, yeah, the more it's out there, the more we can understand each other. I think what's interesting enough, I was talking to someone the other day who was saying that being a nerd, you know, he identified as a nerd as kind of a way of life too.
Mm.
So there's still gonna be a wall, even if anime becomes super mainstream, and it's entering the mainstream,
Yeah,
right? But like
right.
if it's like Marvel now, right? You know, even you think about Marvel, and you have the people that love the MCU, that love Loki, and you know, and all that, and
Mm.
then you have the people that are still love the comic books, and they're talking about the comic books and geeking out about the comic books, and they're still those people are still kind of considered, oh yeah, you know, that's they're the nerds, right? They're the real nerds, you know. And so they're always going to be, you know, I think they have probably this feeling where people are looking down on them, right? You know, and
yeah,
just there's this constant feeling that people don't consider them good enough. And that's where the church has got to say, hey, no, you're absolutely good enough, right? That's, you know, come as you are. Just want you to come as you are, and we'll support you and love you, you know, just like Jesus loves us for all our sins and iniquities, and we're still, you know, we're no better than you are, you know. So come over here and let's come to know each other. But you gotta enter their realm a little bit to be able to communicate with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. All right. Well, now we're on to, again, this interview is great, but now we're on to even more fun with this episode.
Now Christmas things.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Now with Christmas, now with anime, there's no like quote unquote, Christmas anime. There's not a show or an anime show about Christmas, or there's not a movie about Christmas. It's generally episodes, and they either have one or they have one a season, and either it's fully about Christmas or it's just like a cherry on top around a broader plot that's going on. It's either one or the other. But we have all picked one of our favorites. And Charles, we're going to have you go first with your pick. So for Christmas, what anime Christmas episode have you chosen?
So I did, just like kind of you mentioned, a series where it's not even a full episode. It's just a little piece in the episode. So I went with Clannad After Story, episode 9. And so this Christmas happens in the episode for a very kind of brief amount of time. But the kind of overarching episode, many months go by in this one episode. It's just they're getting, it's kind of a link between all the previous stuff happening and the real stuff that the series is about to get into. And so this is senior year for most of the characters in the cast. They're getting close to graduation. Tomoya is being asked by Nagisa and others, what are you going to do after graduation? He doesn't know. Some of the other characters are getting ready for graduation. They know what they're going to do. They're going to go overseas, or they're going to go to this school or that school, or go to work. They're going to be a model, which doesn't work out for one of the characters very well.
Sonohara.
Yeah, oh my gosh, but that's so him, right? So
yeah.
So they're not real sure what to do. And then in the middle of all this, Nagisa gets sick again, right? Like that's been overarching thing. That's something that we've as we watch the series, we know that's always there, right? So we're always worried about her. But it is kind of unexpected at this moment, because you kind of almost have a happy arc where it's like, oh, she's finally going to graduate, right?
Yeah.
She gets sick. She starts missing class. She misses exams. She has to stay home. And then the Christmas part of the episode happens when all the friends come together to celebrate Christmas, which happens to cross with Nagisa's birthday, which is Christmas Eve. And then that's the Christmas part of the episode. There's about 2 or 3 minutes of Christmas fun at that point, or sentimentality, I would say.
Nice. And so why in particular did you choose this episode where it's really not about Christmas, but it just has that little piece in there?
Yeah. So I've written, so we've done these 12 Days of Christmas series so many times over the years. And I love the kind of fun series, right? They bring a lot of joy. They help me get into the mode of the season and the joy of what it's all about. But I even better the episodes that are a little sad, that feel a little bit more real in that way. And Clannad is about to go into territory that still doesn't happen in anime, right? It's about to go into really sad, human, difficult, challenging territory,
right?
And I think this episode really starts to kind of capture those feelings of like everything isn't right for people at Christmas, and there are people that are really struggling, and it should be a really happy time, and almost everyone else is happy, right? They're moving on in life. It's senior year. I remember senior year. I love senior year of high school. I didn't like the rest of it, but I liked senior year. It was a lot of fun as we got towards graduation, right? But Nagisa is struggling, and Tomoya is really struggling because he sees the pain that Nagisa's in, and he himself still feels very unworthy, right? Because of who he is, and what am I going to do with my life? And I don't deserve Nagisa. I don't deserve anything, So it's I feel like it's very authentic in that way, and that's why I picked this particular episode.
Yeah, there is a lot of when we were rewatching it the other day, and preparing for this episode, there is a lot of authentic emotion, it feels like, because Tomoya, because Nagisa has gotten sick and she's missing classes, he wants to hold himself back because he wants to preserve everything that's there with her, and he feels if he goes forward, if he moves forward, all that's going to be lost, because the reason that he has made all these friends and that he's gotten this far is because of her.
Yeah, and you know, I love Nagisa's role in this, the whole series really, but in this specific episode where, you know, he feels it's so unfair for her. He loves her so much. I'll stay
Yeah.
behind, right? And they're like, no, you got to move ahead. And Nagisa's like, no, I want you to keep moving on. You know, the idea that sacrifice comes in all sorts of different ways, right? It's
Yeah.
interesting that Tomiya's sacrifice is to graduate, is to move on, right? And that's when Nagisa wants to see, and that's what she wants to see from her friends too. And she's going to take the brunt of the pain here, right? You know, as people are moving on, she's the one who's fallen. This is going to be her second year repeating the same grade, right? So, or the second time. So this will be the third year repeating it, right? So she's, you know, she's already really struggling, but her happiness is to see people grow, right? And it's only a step and a jump to make that connection to Christ taking on our iniquities, and we grow through that, right? We grow through what He did on the cross for us. So, yeah, so it's definitely touching in that way, and definitely real to life, just like that dog barking.
Yeah, there you go. There's Molly's appearance.
Oh, I've got dish, clothes being washed downstairs. So I'm sure there's all sorts of noises going on. It's life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Becky, you have any comments regarding this particular episode? I know that your history with Clannad wasn't the best starting out, because it was one thing that I had watched previously, and we were like 5 episodes in, and Becky said, I can't, nothing's happening.
Yeah, well, that was also pretty early on in our anime journey. And I don't think we had watched any slice of life before. And I needed like really captivating things to watch to get into the anime culture. And so we did return. We returned to Clannad once we had gotten more into it, and it was really good. But I would not suggest it as a first watch to get into anime.
It's the slowest burn. Like if I'm being
It's
honest,
so slow.
I'm like it takes about 40 episodes before you get to the meat of it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be really committed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. One thing I did really like about this particular episode, though, that something that really stuck out to me was during the Christmas party, which was also Nagisa's birthday party. What was it? She was saying? Oh, she was talking down about herself. I forget what she said exactly, but her parents like popped in, was like, "Hey, whoa, don't talk about yourself that way." And I thought it was just a really cool moment, like in the moment, for someone to step up and say, "No, you're not stupid. You're not a burden to people. We love you." And because that's something she was really struggling with. And I just thought that was really, really neat to be able to address that in the moment.
She's got really great parents, and there's that wisdom that comes with years. I think that you see in them. Like Tomoya wants to have an answer now for everything. He wants to fix things now, and then later on in the series, he detaches. Right, like, you know, it's like boom, boom. This happens in my life. I gotta turn here. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. What do I do in this situation with Nagase? I'm gonna drop out. Like really bad decisions that a teenager would make, right? And that someone as he goes into his 20s would make, you know, and this is normal. And in Nagisa, the way she would feel, right? But the parents are just so steadfast, right? So enduring, so patient. I don't have that kind of patience, you know, even at my age. But it's they exhibit that kind of maturity that you know you also see in the Christian life. There's there's some things that only come with time, that only come with decades of following Christ. And then you'll be like, oh, I have a better understanding of grace. I have a better understanding of patience, a better understanding of all these things that need to be done and how to treat people in the moment, right? That, she needs to hear this now. And this is why I've been telling her all these years. So I need to tell her again and again and again. And it's okay. This is the person she is, and this is what I can do for her. And no matter how much Tomoya loves Nagisa, they've only known each other for about a year or two, and that too, relationships take time, right? So they know their daughter, and Tomoya is still getting to know her more and more as they grow together in love.
Yeah. And I love that, like you said, that maturity that comes from being having lived more life. I also really love that while they have that, they're also crazy.
Yeah.
There's space. Yeah, there's space to be funny. Of like the whole bit about the bread that she makes terrible bread. I love your bread.
Yeah, after he says how terrible
funny.
it is.
They like took that like animation of the Sinai just running out and like just replayed it over different scenery.
Yep, basically it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. Yeah, no, they're great. There's a lot of comedy that goes, not in this episode, but just in general.
Right.
It's a really nice mix. And I was surprised that kind of held up to me. Like it'd been probably 5 years since I watched a Clannad episode. I used to watch towards the end, the last few episodes of the series, almost yearly, because they're really impactful for me. But I hadn't watched it in a number of years, and came rushing back to me. It's still an excellent series to watch.
Yeah, I would agree. There is those series that just like really grab you that you want to watch, over time at different periods, just to get that experience that you had the first time.
Yeah. And sometimes sometimes if you watch something too much, it starts to go away, right? So you kind of, it's like, I have that I have that with music a lot, right? Like now I can listen to anything I want all the time. It's like all the stuff I loved, I don't love as much anymore because I've listened to it and I'm just like, I think I'm done with that song forever. It used to be my favorite song. So you got to find out the right mix there.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll go ahead and Becca, with your choice.
Okay. I did the episode in Toradora, which is one of the like highest rated Christmas episodes of like all anime. Yeah. That's usually is like at the top of most lists for Christmas episodes.
And that actually spans over a few episodes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's really like 3 episodes. When I went back to rewatch it, I was like, ooh, I need a little more context than just this one episode to like remember what exactly was going on at this time. And so it starts with like, if we're going like the full 3 episodes, oh my gosh, Taiga. I was like, what's her name? Taiga is super excited for Christmas. She believes that Santa is real. And she is like, I'm going to be on my best behavior during this time. And so she's like going to play Cupid basically for everybody. And throughout the series, Ryu and Taiga have been helping each other out with their love interests. And of course, they've grown closer throughout the series, and Ryu hasn't realized that he likes Taiga, and she hasn't either. But in this one particular Christmas episode, that's when everything starts to change, and mainly for Taiga. Ryu's still a bit dense, but they are building, or they're throwing this Christmas party at school. It's going to be on Christmas Eve, I think. And they build this big, beautiful light up tree. And the idea is during the course of the episode, Ryu is going to invite Minori, getting all their names right. Minori because that's the girl he likes, to this party, Well, Minori really she began to like Ryu. And so she's been avoiding. We don't quite find that out though until like a couple episodes later, but it's fine. So that's generally what's going on. And then Taiga is just there's this one heartbreaking scene after Ryu realizes that she's left the party early. She's gone home waiting for Santa to come. And he dresses up in this Santa bear outfit and shows up in her bedroom window. Good move. So it shows up in there, and they have this sweet moment of, yay, Santa, you came, knowing full well that was not Santa. But it was Ryu dressing up for her, and just how much she appreciated that. And man, he ends up leaving to go tell Minori how he feels about her. And that is when Taiga realizes for the first time, oh, I love Ryuji. And so this heartbreaking scene where she runs out of the apartment building and she's weeping. And you're like, I'm weeping too. It's very sad. But also like, yay, about time. It's like dual emotions here. But yeah, so that episode is really where everything changes with their relationship.
And I like this episode because I think it's either the actual one where they have the party, but Taiga is going around with Ryushi, walking about town, and saying that, in this season, everybody needs somebody to watch over them. And I think we kind of get that spirit and that feeling of hope. It's like, oh, somebody's up there, somebody does care about me. So I thought that was a little good nugget of information.
Yeah, that was I remember the scene you're talking about. That was a couple episodes before.
Okay.
What, Under the Fir Tree, I think is the name of the actual episode that we're talking about. But yeah, you're right. She talked a lot about angels and like straight out of Christianity right there, talking about angels and yeah, someone watching over you. And it's like Taiga really thought of Santa as her savior, as Jesus, which I thought was really interesting, particularly since there's a lot of people who talk about Santa that way, that like he is Jesus to a lot of people. Like, there's so many classic Christmas songs that's like, okay, Santa's not a genie in a bottle. I don't know. There's just like so much hope on Santa, and it's like, this is such misplaced hope from the world that really we are, craving that hope in Jesus.
And that I think that she wants to keep it at this kind of hopeful, optimistic level, right? But the reason I love Toradora so much, I was glad that you picked this episode. Toradora is one of my very, very favorite shows, and Minori is my favorite anime character of all time. So she has an arc going on right now at the same time as Taiga's arc. Is that despite the optimism, it's complicated. It's so complex, right? You mentioned Ryuji's just, okay, he's kind of like this, right? He's dense, right? But for the girls, like this is very complicated stuff because Minori has separated herself from Ryuji this whole time because she knows, right? Her and Ami know before Taiga and Ryuji know that those two, are like each other and want to be with each other, right? And so Minori's like, how can I be Taiga's best friend as I'm growing more and more interested in Ryuji, and if Ryuji confesses to me, right, what am I going to do in that moment? So there's that complication, and she's finally kind of getting past that because in that scene until that scene where Taiga cries out there and Minori sees it, right? She's like, oh, I was, it won't happen till later, but she gets the sense, oh, I was right. I knew what Taiga really felt for him, right? And what am I going to do now? And even kind of the end matter when everything ends in the series, how they've decided to go, which ways they decide to go, and the decisions they decide to make are still very complicated because they're navigating friendships and relationships. And so if you see Christmas as just a spectacle and Santa as just, like Taiga does as this kind of as an angel, I kind of get the sense that I maybe I'm making up this backstory. Maybe I read it in a light novel. I read a little bit of Toradora. I get the sense that she probably went to Catholic school when she was younger. Her family is very wealthy, right? So maybe she has a little bit of sense of what Christianity is, and she's mixing these symbols up, right? But it's all like, beautiful. It's presents and Santa. Bear Santa, apparently, right? And all these wonderful things, right? But again, there's that nice stuff, but there's a lot of stuff underneath the surface, and Christ is so much more than Santa, right? He's there to guide you in so many more ways than the Jolly Fat Man will, right? So, so it's a great arc and a wonderful series.
Mm. Yeah, and I love the complexity of Minori as well, like you were saying. The series does such a great job with hitting on the so many different complexities of human relationships in general.
Yeah, it was deeper than I thought when I watched it the first time. Definitely got something different when I watched it the second time. But yeah, it's talking about like relationships. It does it in such a way that I haven't seen any other show do it, with just the complexities between Minori, between Taiga, between Ryuji, between Kitamura, and all the other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, Charles, you were talking about thinks that she maybe went to a Catholic school. That sounds about right, because I know in the episodes surrounding this, Taiga was saying that I think where she went to school in like elementary school or middle school or whatever, that they always volunteered at like an orphanage or something, and maybe that was why. It did have a very like
I remember
Catholic
that.
school kind of vibe,
and that's why she's still sending those gifts to the orphans.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where I got that from. Okay, that makes sense. A couple of things I liked about the episode that aren't so complex are Kitamura. First of all, like that guy can't, like, it's like he wants to wear as few clothes as possible, like just the suspenders
and nobody questions it. They're all thinking of those. Oh, we shouldn't ask.
Yeah, he's so much fun. And then I think one thing that people really like about this episode that I didn't realize when I was watching it years ago, but as it comes around every year, is the song, right, that Taiga and Ami sing, right? Like that's kind of become part of the soundtrack of anime Christmas, an original Christmas song, in the middle of an episode. That's pretty rare. So that's fun too.
That is, I didn't think about that. I like it's a nice song, but yeah, I didn't think about that. It's great. So we'll go ahead and round things off with my pick, which is My Christmas from My Love Story.
You got to say it like him, Josh.
Okay. My Christmas. I just love at the end of each episode, he just says it like so emphatically, like next episode, my mom.
That was the best one.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so in My Christmas from My Love Story, we have it's actually all about Christmas for this one. And we have Yamato and Takeo, who are, planning this Christmas thing. Well, Yamato is really has this idea. It's like, oh, we should have a party with my friends at the all-girls school that she goes to, and with Takeo's friends at the school that he goes to. Well, there's a bit of an arrangement going on between their best friends, which is Kurihara and Nanako. And Kurihara says, oh, well, is Nanako going to be there? So, well, I can ask Yamato if she's going to be there. And so they both secretly like each other. And we have this whole thing that just ensues over emotional, comedic, and just like, why haven't you done anything yet? through this whole entire episode. And I love Yamato and Takeo's kind of like relationship where they think they're being so sneaky and they have their little quirks. It's like, oh, they're gonna get together. Um, but it doesn't turn out that way. And the main theme I thought for this episode, aside from Christmas, is trying to force something that you just need to let grow organically. I mean, their hearts are in the right place between wanting to get their two friends together, but it's just pushing it like more and more to the point where Nanako runs out of the party because Kurihara is who he is and is dense and um, not the model boyfriend at the time, but I also love Takeo's reaction because his can't remember the other guy's name.
The blonde-haired guy.
Yeah, the blonde-haired guy.
I don't remember his name either. But I know
Suna. I think it's Suna.
Sure.
Oh, Suna's. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sunakawa. Yeah, Sunakawa. There you go. Yeah. So Sunakawa says to Takeo, it's like, sometimes you just need to say nothing, do nothing, just be. And Takeo, you can tell it's just run through his mind. It's like, I can't not do nothing. And pulls Kurihara up and says, you got to get out there. You got to run after her. You got to profess your love to her. You got to do something. And so earlier in the episode, a shopkeeper tells them about this special star that's up on the tree, and then they climbs up there, retrieves the star, that their wish or their true love will materialize, basically. And Sunahara, when first hearing about this, is like, hey, who would ever do that? That's so crazy. Not impressing Nanako in the least, but he goes past his fears. He wants to make things right. Probably because he's scared of the Takeo and what he would do if not. But yeah, I just love that episode. The whole series is so wholesome and like what it says about relationships. Rebecca, we'll have you just comment on like your thoughts about the episode.
Oh yes, I thought is really good. It's such a great series in general. But yeah, Nanako, poor girl, she is like, I'm not having it. Well, and it all stacks up, right? It's all they're so stupid. Both of them. They're like, I just really want, like, oh man, it's hard to even like get it out because it's like, there's some sort of weird like hand holding thing. Like, will he hold my hand? Does that mean he likes me? Well, probably. Like, you guys went on a date, right? Like, just take it slow. It's all fine. But I mean, how often does that happen? When you're particularly a lot younger. It's like does he? Doesn't he? But he eventually does it, Tsunohara, he faces his fears and who? Kurihara, whatever their names are.
Yeah,
but it's a good episode.
It's sweet, and I love how Takeo was like you said, he was he realized he was trying to do too much. He's like, okay, lay back, and then he just like, I'm gonna make you do this again. And there's a time and season for everything, I guess, right? Like sometimes maybe they didn't need the push at first, but he definitely, Kurihara needed it at the end there, because he's a typical teenage boy, and he's doing some stuff that's right, but for the most part, it's not like he's purposely, this bad dude. He's just totally missing a mark over and over and over again because, I remember what it was like being a 17-year-old too, right? And it's
I mean, you try way too hard and it doesn't end up well.
Yeah, no, and thanks to their friends, it does kind of end up well. So
Yes.
they ended up
Yeah.
actually needing, I think maybe they needed that push, maybe not. I mean, like you mentioned, Rebecca Kurihara was already holding her hand in some
Yeah.
sort of previous date they went on. So yeah, I don't know, he's working towards it.
Yeah. And then the next obstacle after that, going beyond this episode, um, Yanto learns that Nanako and Kurihara had kissed. Well, her and Takio hadn't kissed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nako's like, teaching her, it's like, oh, do you need mama to teach you things?
Oh, no.
So
Oh gosh.
that leads into the next episode of My Birthday, which is another thing entirely. But yeah, so I mean, I've always enjoyed the series, enjoyed that episode. One last thing I wanted to touch on, and wanted to ask you, Charles, is we talked about the cultural differences of how Christmas is celebrated in America versus Japan. I know a few of them. I know that Christmas for them is, well, in America we usually associate it, for at least in the Christian sphere, the birth of Jesus. In Japan, it's referred to as just a happy day, a joyful day, and it's only
day for
celebrated
dates.
for
A day for dates,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah, different days. I know you had an issue with that. It's like, who goes on a date on Christmas? I mean,
Well, in America, it's weird,
yeah,
but not everywhere,
right. And it's not celebrate like a whole day. It's usually just a few hours. So it's not as big of a holiday. Like Charles, what are some of the main differences that you know about in the celebration between the two cultures?
Yeah, I mean, you think about the secularization of Christmas in America, right? But Christianity was stomped out in Japan hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And if you listen to the various stats, it's 1% to 2% of the country is Christian. A guy I know who wants to be a missionary in Japan quoted the statistic that it's 0.05%, half of 1% evangelical Christian. So it's just a really tiny percentage of the population. So you get how secular it is, and it's already not a Japanese holiday, and it has nothing to do with the religion over there. You all mentioned the food, right? There's the Christmas cakes, and funny enough, so there's like Asian bakeries around us. We sometimes get Christmas kind of cakes. So I don't know if that's just Japan, because we go to like Taiwanese place, Korean place, and they have cakes for the holidays too. But the other big thing is the KFC, right? And you'll see this in anime episodes, and they have to reserve that way in advance, to get that. And I've never, so I don't know what their KFC is like in Japan, but I do know that if you get Asian fried chicken, Korean fried chicken especially, it is significantly. I mean, I like my fried chicken here, but it is significantly better than American fried chicken, and it's different, right? So it's a treat.
Yeah, I've heard that Korean fried chicken is like top-notch fried chicken.
So good. You all gotta try it sometime.
One day.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, because we put the focus on like turkey and ham and all this stuff, but like no, they're content with their KFC, their fried chicken, and
which I mean, honestly, is kind of better because like for us, we've just done Thanksgiving, which is all of the same things.
yes, right.
Yeah.
So
Maybe we should propose that this year. Maybe we just do KFC. I somehow think that it's not going to go over well.
no, one year
family.
we did like a taco bar at my mom's house.
Oh
though.
yeah,
That was kind of fun.
yeah, that was fun.
Different.
Yeah. Oh gosh, but yeah, so we're excited to keep this thing rolling through December with our Christmas series. We want to thank Charles for being with us on this episode and all the work that he is doing with Beneath the Tangles. Charles, for those of you who want to know more or maybe just follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, please go to beneaththetangles.com to read our articles and see what we're doing. But we're on all social media platforms, either at Beneath the Tangles or at Anime Tangles. And so that's going to be Twitter, TikTok, Tumblr, YouTube, all sorts of places. Just search for us and you'll find us. Me specifically, I help run a lot of those accounts, so you kind of get my personality there. But I'm also my kind of Twitter and Mastodon and Blue Sky handles are all the same, and it's the Tangles, just without the beneath. So you can follow me there as well.
Awesome. And we'll also have a link to all of the Christmas episodes that Beneath the Tangles has generously put together. I think that list is still growing. We'll have that link down in the description. And for our audience, what is your favorite anime Christmas episode? Do you agree with our choices or not? Tell us why. Until next time, keep those halos shiny and stay all in, my friends.